So again, we're talking from Mintzberg on management. It is a final chapter, societies becoming manageable. Point number 11. Bringing things under control is exactly what planning systems are designed to do, an obsession with planning. Well, the obsession with planning comes about as a result of trying to control the TMP, too many people, and the TMI. Otherwise, you can't get things done. And that's partly an indictment upon Canadians to some extent. In Canadian society, much more than in American society, we have a strong emphasis on peace, order, and good government, as opposed to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And Canadians are always very concerned about, did you follow the proper processes? Whereas in other cultures, sometimes they're just focused on, well, did you get the results? Which is more like an American style. Point number 12, talking about being in control of the machine. Bureaucracy means to have it down on paper. One of the things that I personally get a little bit concerned about is in your second and third year courses, you take some particular studies where you use complicated mathematical structures to write numbers down as if somehow that could be an indication of the company's success or failure based on these ratios. And the importance of having things measurable, and that if you can't have your progress measurable based on mathematics, then somehow nothing else counts. One of the things that's not very well understood is the intuitive understanding of business. And this is why increasingly they want people going into MBA program to be a little bit older, because then you have that sort of life experiences which help with that intuitive understanding. Point number 13. In this point here, he's basically talking about the question of whether managers are born, not made. And that's a challenging thing. So we still don't know much about, the whole category of intuition and judgment. And he's talking about labeling our ignorance and talking about conscious, rational minds, where there appears to be neither linear nor analytical and so on. Okay, point number 14, talking about rationalizing is to the contemporary manager what bloodletting was to the medieval physician. And again, that fits with point number 15, integrating, growing, and creating depending on good part on the other mode of thinking, on viewing things holistically. I don't know if you've heard of that term holistic thinking, but this has increasingly become popular for people that want to take into account the social cultural environment. Not just thinking about things in a technological or an economic term. Things to do with family size, or things to do with the way people communicate, and things that are not explicitly measurable by quantifiable numbers. So you'll increasingly hear people talk about holistic opinions about things and holistic measuring of influences. Point number 16, students. Our school systems, in my opinion, have become areas of unmitigated disaster. In the name of rationality, education has been inundated with curricula carefully planned in offices distant from the classroom, been forced in facilities carefully rationalized to be efficient. By imposing forms of control incompatible with the activities in question, we end up with unprecedented alienation. Is it not true that students are increasingly dissatisfied with what they're studying? And there seems to be a generation of almost panic. I have been teaching here for 12 years, and I notice a big difference between students in 2010, 11, 12 versus those in 99, 2000, 2001. These days, students are very particular, precise about, is what I'm learning going to help me get a job in the very immediate near future? Many people seem to be very, very concerned about judging the exact topics in their course and how that matches what exactly they're going to do. When it's ironic that you live in the age in the world where everything's all topsy-turvy. And there are going to be jobs that you're going to do 5 and 6 years from now which don't even have names right now. So rather than being so very anal and worrying about studying exact specific things that will match to a job you hope to get exactly 12 and 18 months from now, you should be thinking more holistically about yourself and your skills and abilities and your ability to be flexible and grow into new areas of understanding things, because that's what the new managers are going to be required to be able to do. And he uses the example of the Inuit being challenged to find their way across the tundra with a map and a compass, when everybody knows that the compass doesn't work at the geographic North Pole because it's not the same as the magnetic North Pole. But sometimes these situations exist where formal proof just can't be done. That's point number 17. Point number 18, the problem with aggregated rationality is that it drives out our judgment and intuition. This is reflected, he talks about in the world of the contemporary MBA. How do we train managers? We take bright, inexperienced people, put them in buildings, throw a whole bunch of paper at them, obviously by people who went BA, MBA, PhD, and they themselves didn't have 10, 15 years business management experience, yet teaching them how to be business managers and strategy people. Point number 19, talking about academic tenor. And he's talking about eliminate the bias for this. The whole point about tenor, working to weed out those who don't toe the accepted line. Yes, that's very true, stifling type of situation. And one of the last points here I wanted to talk about, the pressures of the job drove managers to be superficial. They know how to make decisions. They don't know how to make decisions with inadequate information. And deciding even superficially was preferable to not deciding at all, because it at least enabled the organization to do something. Yogi Berra, famous baseball coach, said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. What does that mean? I mean, sometimes it's better to just make a decision than to draw out a long, convoluted process. And more so in the information age, with so many flat organizations, managers have to make wildly more diverse areas so responsible and make decisions about things that they're not necessarily expert on. So in the information age, you have the information worker that in many cases is much more expert about the subject that he's responsible for than the manager one level above, yet the manager is supposed to be in a decision to make a decision about things that the worker actually knows more about. How does that handle? How does that come about? Okay, thanks.